I'll tell you one other story. I love it. Because we saw those kids playing with Legos. Somebody asked Gustavo when he wanted to become a conductor. He said, I always wanted to be a conductor. He said, when I was 6 years old, I would line up my Legos and conduct them. And they played beautifully because I had the record of the Berlin Philharmonic on in the background. So think of the imagination and creativity of that child, which was allowed to flourish in something we're driving at.
I feel compelled to just discuss JROTC for 1 minute here. I have good colleagues on both sides of this argument, and I'm so glad I'm not on the school board because I would not know how to vote, but I am intrigued by your comments, so I'm going to go back and repeat them to my colleagues in San Francisco. Because on one hand, I feel like it's my duty to protect children from exploitation. Like we've banished junk food in our schools because we don't care if they want junk food. We just say it's bad for you, and you're going to die if you eat too much junk food, and you certainly might die if you end up falling in love with the military. But so I mean, my husband's a conscientious objector. I really understand that, and on the other hand, I understand it's their decision, not ours. Let them follow their star. So you want to comment?
Well, I think it's the second position that's the more important. I mean, I'm a pacifist myself. But I think you yourself said it. Do you have the right to impose your own morals on these kids? One of the most moving pitches I ever heard for LA's Best was given by a young man who was a sergeant in the LA police force. And he remembered how when he was at LA's Best in Sepulveda Elementary School, and they were driving by and shooting, and the kids in LA's Best had to hide behind cinder blocks to protect themselves. Well, obviously something happened in his own mind that made him feel that's not good. I want to be a part of the forces that stop that. So the important thing, I think, in the argument is to remember that all are going to have different desires, different wishes, different wants. This doesn't mean that they don't want to be chemists or they don't want to be biologists, and that we shouldn't have microscopes and those things available for them in schools. But I've been concentrating on what we must do after school, which is to restore the self-confidence to children that's being destroyed in school.
I was curious if you could sort of talk about the way in which the youth sort of understanding of a global culture transforms their own communities. I mean, you described sort of a girl walking through a community playing the violin and the pride they have for that girl. But what kinds of transformations does that have in the community in terms of sort of global culture and the students actually teaching adults about the world and so on?
Well, in the classical music, you are connecting to the most sublime creation of music in the world. So you may be walking through the slums of Caracas playing the violin, but you're practicing Mozart or Beethoven. And that's that universal spirit that you're connecting to. So it is by its very nature a global humanitarian, and as Dr. Abreu said, sublime experience for children. But you could do it the way Carla Sanger does in LA's Best by having programs on landmines. I'm not saying we don't need to guide children. What we've got to figure out is how to guide them in interesting directions. That's why I held up this book. I can tell you a lot of things that kids are taught that are less interesting than about people climbing Mount Everest. So we got to get them excited and see that learning can be learning about neat things, and that includes world cultures that have done amazing things. Amazing things. And kids love it. Right before I retired from LAUSD, I came in one morning and I was looking at my assistant, Wendy Cowan, had a glum face, and I said, "All right, what's up?" And she said, "Well, they won't allow Scholastic to be an educational budget item. She said, what? Well, it was about toilet paper. Scholastic has a wonderful book on mummies. And we were using, I worked out with Scholastic, a fun comprehension program for after school. So one of the books they were reading was about mummies. And so the kids were wrapping each other in toilet paper, you know, pretending to be mummies. Well, there you go. That's education for you. My boss used to say, hey, just make up a budget number. Make up a line item. Whatever we need to do to get children to have those experiences. I mean, what's more fascinating than those tombs in the pyramids? What's more exciting?